So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with RokoM and Michele. And this week, we're going to talk about the power of connections. One of the things that stood out for me, or at least one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is John Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates If You Connect. And anyway, so I'll start off with a quote. I mean, I love the book. It was so funny when I was going through it to prepare for this. I told Roko, I said, I've got paper clips, Post-its, big Post-its, little Post-its, things are highlighted. So clearly there was a lot in there that I wanted to remember to stand out to share with others. So this first quote, we're going to start out with, because Roko has another one that I love. When you're trying to connect with people, it's not about you, it's about them. So I think for that one, and it was interesting because we ran across some other quotes, literally you're, as leaders, right, we're in service to others. And Margie Haganey would say that all the time, right? When we're doing A3 thinking and you're asking people questions, it's in service to the problem owner. And so I think the same thing, if we show up with that intention with others, that connection is not, I mean, it can be, it's not about what I gained from it, even though I gained from it, but it's about what can I do to serve others and how can I be of service to you to make that initial connection. So anyway, that's where my brain goes, and it's just so important. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so connection to me is that when there is an integration of the two perspectives or an integration of the two people. And it, you know, when I first started thinking about this, I thought, okay, well, what happens if you're not in service of the other person, right? There generally is a one-way interaction, and that's not connection. No. So it truly is that give and take, that integration of the two that create the connection. Yeah. So to do that, you have to be thinking in service of that other person. Get something from that other person.
The other thing that came to mind for me when you were talking is it takes us beyond this surfacey smile, hi, how are you doing? And it takes us to another level. Yeah. And so I think part of it is, and we've talked about it in previous ones, about activities that you can do to go beyond just title of people or the role that they have, because it gets you to that next level of that understanding the person. And I think those are the things that are required to actually make real connections. And it's not about, I think Christy Buford was talking about relationships, and it's not about having people over for Christmas or whatever, but it's really that, to your point, that give and take.
Yeah. Understanding what drives the other person. You know, what are their core values? What are those things that motivate them? What are those things that drain them? And really getting to know that person.
Yeah, because we are all so freaking different, right? And if we don't have those I think about COVID. I think that's one of the things of COVID is that when we went remote, those connections, those in-person moments were gone. And I think it was up to leaders to reach out and reconnect with people differently, right? Because we'd established connections in a certain way, gotten into routines, you know, the hallway conversations, I remember one building that I worked in, it had this ridiculously long hallway. You remember, you worked in that building, to the bathroom. You know, and so, but even though it was awkward as you're walking towards someone, because they know where you're going and you know where they came from, right? It's that you still had those moments to have connections to people and smile and everything else. And I think when we went remote, those impromptu, not planned connections stopped. And I think part of what had people feeling adrift is if you didn't reestablish it in a different way.
Right. They felt alone, which I'm going to go to the quote.
You have another quote.
Go to the quote. Okay. So it says, think back to the most important experiences of your life, the highest highs, the greatest victories, the most daunting obstacles overcome. How many happened to you alone? I bet there are very few. when you understand that being connected to others is one of the life's greatest joys, you realize that life's best comes when you initiate and invest in solid relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that was John Maxwell as well.
Yeah. That one, when you first said it, I'm like, yes, right? Because my brain goes to, I can go back to the fear stuff, right? Of the caverns. There was the group that went and the people that stayed behind, so that, the organizers of the group. So I would feel supported to be able to repel in that ridiculously large thing. Had I been on my own and not been connected to anyone else and them invested in me seeing through this goal that I had, I don't know that I would have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I know offline, I was like, okay, so what's the power? What's the power behind this connection? Right. And for me, as we talked through it, it's that motivator.
Mm-hmm.
It's that support that you talked about. When you're alone, if you're starting to feel drained, there's no one around you to pick you up. And when you have connections with others, I think that's the power, is that when you're at a low point, they're going to help lift you up, and vice versa. When they're at a low point, you can help lift them up. They're there for additional support, or they're there to add additional joy, right? Mm-hmm. Experience, having that shared experience and exhilaration of completing something or doing something great, even, so that's what I was like, okay, so that's the power. It's not just when you're alone, you can celebrate your strengths or your accomplishments, but it really brings life when you have others to share those experiences with.
Yeah. And I think, yes. And all that stuff, my brain went to, out shopping. So you have a connection, friendship, whatever, right? And if you're out shopping by yourself and you turn around and go, what do you think? There's no one to ask that of, right? So it is those connections to be able to have people around you. But the other thing that came to mind, if we pull back to leadership business, is change and change management. Yeah. And so there's a change management training that I've done. And a lot of things help when you talk about connections. Is part of the activities are people going to breakout and share reflections, different thoughts, their perspectives. And so the value that they have in going in those breakouts and sharing with other people is that they come back, and I've heard people say, it was so nice to know that other people were experiencing what I was experiencing. I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part of it, is that it does give you the motivation to continue forward. It does validate that you're on the right path. It does, that you're not this one-off. And I think there was another one that you talked about, that as humans, Gandhi, I think, mm-hmm. we need people.
Yeah. We're social beings.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that you're in Times Square jam-packed with everyone around you. But I think those connections they're a deeper level. And I think the other one, and this goes a little bit into a different area, but it touches on it. A quote, it says, communication is an exchange of information. Mm-hmm. Connection is an exchange of our humanity. Mm-hmm. And so it goes to a different level, mm-hmm. which can be scary. Yeah. But I think it's the stuff that we need to continue on through, to your point, the highs and the lows.
Yeah. It's not just about information or your title, like you said at the very beginning. There's more to us as a human being.
Yeah.
All the experiences that we bring to the relationship.
Yeah. It's the humanness. Taps into the humanness.
Taps into the humanness. I love it.
I love this topic. So what is one or two things you want people to walk away with, Roko, around the power of connections?
I think the power of connections is really about that social aspect. It creates that shared experience and can motivate you and support you through those connections.
Yeah. I think the thing for me as we were talking is encouragement to take a look at the people you have around you and think about where there's an opportunity to create connections that maybe don't currently exist.
Yeah.
So I think that for me is the thing, is take a look where that opportunity might exist, to go a little bit more. And I think it speaks to the whole trust part of it and everything else that we previously talked about. So that's it for me. Thank you, as always. This has been Leadership Soundbites with RokoM Michele. Please like, share, subscribe. If you have a topic, I know we've thought of ones too, share it with us. We love to hear about that stuff. Until next time, thanks.
Bye-bye.